Hey guys, first and foremost, I want to thank you all for all the support you've been giving me so far. You know, my channel is still pretty small, but I'm at like 2,800 subscribers so far, and that is absolutely amazing, especially in the amount of time that's been accomplished in, and I love you guys and thank you so much. I had a handful of people request that I do a Q&A, so on one of my previous videos, I said, hey, if you guys want me to, you can submit questions, and if I get enough of them, I will do one, and I got a pretty good response, actually. So, enough that I think it merits me doing one. One of the questions I was asked is, what is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? So, I am including a story of my experience of what would be the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. One of the questions that I was asked a bunch of times is, what got you into creepypastas, and why did you start this channel? To give you the same answer that probably everyone else does, I have been a fan of horror my entire life. Ever since I was a little kid, I just absolutely loved it. I found out about creepypastas years ago. I was familiar with, copypastas before they turned into, certain ones turned into creepypastas. I didn't discover them being narrated online on YouTube until a couple years ago. And as time went by, I got more and more into them and listening to them. And eventually, I got to a spot where it seemed like there was like 3 main people that were uploading stories. And aside from that, all the other narrators that were uploading creepypastas were uploading the same content. So I was hearing the same stories over and over again. And I didn't really like that. I also like the true stories, that are usually collected from Reddit, the Let's Not Meet type stories. I do enjoy those, and it seems like there's so many different people, so many different channels that are trying to put out the best content and the best stories, and that's totally respectable. It looks like they're trying to get to these stories first, so as these good stories are being posted online, there's so many different sites that are posting the same thing. So I'll be going from video to video, listening to these stories, and I'll keep hearing the same stories over and over again from different narrators. Eventually, I was like, man, I wish there was a channel that only put out content that wasn't heard anywhere else before. So every time that this person put out content, I knew it was going to be something I haven't heard before. And that's really what motivated me to start my channel. I wanted to be a channel to where if you see me upload something, you know it's going to be a new story. And so basically what I post is stuff that I believe hasn't been heard anywhere else, and also stuff that I find enjoyable and entertaining. Another question a few people asked was, what can we do to support your channel? What can we do to help your channel grow? To be completely honest with you guys, I do work a normal day job. So I'm busy a lot of the time. I have a lot of things going on in my life, and I'm not able to dedicate as much time to my channel as I wish I could. I'm hoping that eventually I will be able to, and I could put out, 5 times as much content as I've been putting out lately. As far as ways to support my channel, of course, the most important thing to me is that people view my content and they like it. That's the main thing. I want people to enjoy what I'm putting out. I want to bring people some type of, happiness and, enjoyment from my stories. Aside from that, of course, subscribing is, a big deal. And now with everything I'm hearing about YouTube, apparently if you don't interact with the channel, you can be unsubscribed. And I've even had a couple people mention that to me, saying that they've been unsubscribed from my channel and, have had to resubscribe. So of course, if you do subscribe to me and you find yourself not subscribed to me anymore, resubscribing is obviously a big help. And from what I've heard, apparently if you click on the little notification bell, that helps keep you subscribed. Or if you, like the videos and leave comments and interact with the channel, that helps you stay subscribed. I don't know for sure, but I'm aware of these apps and websites where basically people with new channels, they will subscribe on a website to 20 random channels, and in return 10 random people will end up subscribing to them or stuff like that, and they end up just like trading subs with other channels back and forth and back and forth, which I think is why YouTube is kind of, if they see someone with an account, that subscribe to whatever channel that they don't seem to be interacting with, then they remove them as a subscriber and, to try to combat what people are doing. I don't know why they're doing that anyway. I guess just because they want to maybe look better. Like, if I had, 2,800 subscribers and I was only getting 50 views on any of my videos, that would look pretty suspicious. Plus, I don't want a bunch of random people subscribed to my channel that have no interest in my content. I don't understand the benefit to that, and it seems to be causing problems for people who have legitimate subscribers. So I guess just do your best to interact with my videos. Liking the videos helps a ton. Commenting on them, sharing the videos, that's a huge thing. You can look at my videos and the views I get, and you can tell that I'm not making, a substantial amount of money from this at this time. If I do in the future, that would obviously, I'd be able to dedicate a lot more time to this. So other ways you can support the channel, aside from just watching the videos, liking, commenting, sharing, all that good stuff, is you can view the ads. Let the ads play. You can click on ads if stuff interests you or whatever, because that's how content creators get paid, is through the advertisements. I do have a Patreon set up as well. It's patreon.com/SirSpooksALot, and if anyone is generous and has the means to do so, that's a huge help as well, especially for those who use an ad blocker. One of the things that was actually mentioned on the Patreon site is like someone signing up for just like, I don't know, $1 a month or $3 a month or whatever, and it's basically an ad blocker forgiver type thing. In exchange for them not viewing the ads, they do that. I cannot stress enough that what's most important to me is that people are enjoying my content. Even if you use an ad blocker, even if you don't contribute a single penny in any way, shape, or form, I still want you to view my content and enjoy it, because that's the number one thing to me. And then also, of course, I have different social media accounts. You can follow me on those, interact with me on those. I love talking to different people, and I leave the information for my social media sites in the description of my videos. Another popular question is, what is your favorite creepypasta? That is very difficult for me to answer because there are so many of them, but one I heard quite a while ago, one of the first creepypastas I actually heard being narrated, was Candle Cove. And Candle Cove was such a simple but such an amazing story to me, because basically the author came up with the idea of how he wanted to end the story, and then from there it's just a bunch of people talking about this creepy show, giving all these very vivid details back and forth, reminding each other of different things and adding on to the details to make this show not only seem creepy but seem so real. And then the ending, just, I remember the way it made me feel, and I was just like, oh my god. So that was the type of ending that just messed with your head so much, and then just kind of left you to imagine what really was going on with all that. I can't say it's my favorite of all time. I don't think I could pick one, but that's just one that really has always stood out to me. What is my favorite meal? I'd have to say, it's hard to narrow it down, but I'd have to say Chinese food just in general has always been my favorite. Is this your first channel? Yes, this is my first channel, and as of right now, this is my only channel. If this channel continues to grow, I actually have ideas of other projects I would eventually like to take on, and that may or may not happen in the future. Do you still listen to stories? Yes, I absolutely still listen to stories. My regular day job, I work by myself completely, so I always have my headphones in, and listening to music is fine. I love music, of course, but listening to stories and creepypastas instead of music actually occupies my thinking, because the work I'm doing, usually I don't have to put too much thought into it because I've done it long enough to where I can kind of just, do it. And the stories, if I can find a good one that I'm able to concentrate on, that I'm able to get into, that makes the night go by so much faster and I end up so much more productive. So yes, I absolutely still listen to stories. Do you play video games? I am definitely a gamer. Lately, I haven't really had the time, unfortunately, but I'll say the last game I was really into was Uncharted, the Uncharted series in general, and Naughty Dog, you know, The Last of Us, even Crash Bandicoot when I was younger. That I love everything they've made. But Uncharted 3 I played online, and I played Uncharted 2 online before Uncharted 3 came out, but Uncharted 3 is the one I really got into. I even had like my own clan with like, you know, probably 20 to 25 people at a time. We did a lot of, you know, competitions. I got really into it. Got pretty good at it too. And part of me desperately wants to get into Uncharted 4. I just don't have the time for it right now. But eventually I probably will, at least to some extent. What do you plan for your channel in the future? Well, what I'd like to have happen is to see my channel continue to grow, and then eventually one day, hopefully sooner than later, it grows to a point to where I can focus the majority of my time on the channel rather than focusing the majority of my time on my day job. And I could, you know, I'd be producing 4 to 5 times as much content easily, because I'd have so much extra time. And for those that, you know, are saying that they wish I put out more content, it just goes back to supporting the channel. If you really enjoy what I do and you want me to continue to do it and do it better and do it more often, then just like my videos, share them, leave comments, interact with me. Just do what you can to help me out, and I will definitely give back to you guys in every way possible, as much as I can. I promise you guys, I'm new at this, and I promise you that I work extremely hard to put these out, and it takes a long time. Especially, my computer is a piece of crap. I even reformatted it, and it's still so slow. I'm basically waiting for it to break completely, and hopefully I get a new computer before that actually happens. What type of audio setup and editing software do you use? Right now, I am using the Blue Snowball microphone. It's a good microphone. I can't say anything bad about it. I want to get a better, more professional microphone as soon as possible, as soon as I can afford one. As far as editing software goes, I use Sony Vegas Pro. Okay, and finally to the last question. What is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? Before I tell the story, I want to say if I didn't include your question on here, I will do another Q&A at some point in the future eventually. And if I didn't get to your question, it's possible that it got overlooked or got buried in the comments. Sometimes, I don't get notifications for comments, and I'll see comments that be like, oh, I didn't know this person commented like 3 days ago and said whatever. So the notification system for YouTube isn't exactly perfect. And then I got, a bunch of emails with questions too. I tried to answer all of them. I should have done like, screenshots of, made it fancy, but I just kind of wrote them all down on a list on a piece of paper, so I wouldn't forget them as people asked. Anyway, so what is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? So I will tell the story. The scariest thing that I can recall going through happened when I was about 8 years old. I met my friend Dustin when we were 4 years old. We went to preschool together and eventually found out we lived on the same street. From that point on, we became best friends and were nearly inseparable. We would take turns going to one another's house, often playing video games together. But we dedicated the majority of our time playing outside. We would do normal kid things and come up with all sorts of random games to play. But another thing we liked to do was to go around exploring the neighborhood. We would run around the streets and find things to do. There was a weird store a couple miles from our home that sold pieces of candy for 1 cent each. Obviously, we would collect pennies and every so often go there to stock up. There was a road that led off the street that we lived on that was basically just a giant hill until it dead-ended into another street. Going down this road, there were a bunch of houses all over. After exploring enough, we found a house that had a big pit next to the corner of the outside of the house. We would play a game where we would pretend the police were after us and we had to run away. The game always ended with us running to this particular house and jumping into the pit to hide. The pit was only about 5 feet deep into the ground and had plenty of room for both of us to hide in it. It was obviously dug at some point so that the basement window would have exposure to the outside world. One day, when playing this game, Dustin jumped too far into the pit and accidentally kicked in the glass window. The window shattered, and we ran off in a complete panic. Nothing came of the incident over the next few days, and being curious kids, we decided to go back one night to see if anything happened. We were a little surprised when we discovered the window in the exact same condition as we had left it several days earlier. It was like the homeowner didn't even notice what happened. This only added to our curiosity, and we went back to my house to retrieve a flashlight. I remember being filled with a mixture of fear and excitement. We just wanted to go see what was going on in the basement at this point. We ran back to the house as usual after retrieving the flashlight. Once we got there, we didn't jump down into the pit. This time, I remember slowly creeping down into it, trying to make as little noise as possible. Once we were at the window, we shined the flashlight into it, and we saw basically nothing. It looked like it was an abandoned house at some point and only had a few random items left behind. At this point, we discussed with each other if anyone even lived in the home anymore. Curiosity just continued to get the best of us, especially when we were together and gave each other an extra boost of confidence. We roamed around the entire house, trying to get a glimpse into any other window we could. Eventually, we were able to see enough of the inside to confirm that the house was indeed abandoned. At this point, we both just desperately wanted inside the house to check it out. It just seemed so weird to us. There were 2 doors on the house, and as expected, they were both locked. At that point, I was pretty much ready to give up. I was scared and it was dark out. We began walking back around to the house to head home. At this point, Dustin began checking the windows and actually found one that slid open a bit. I remember him just stopping and looking at me with this big menacing smile. So, since we thought we were the damn Hardy Boys, we planned on going back to the house the following night to explore the inside of it. So we headed back to the house the following night with flashlights and a small step stool I grabbed which would assist us in getting up into the window. We went up to the same window Dustin had opened the previous night. He opened it up again. It was a very old window that jammed halfway up, but it did provide us with just enough room to slide through. Once inside, it looked like the house had been vacant for a very long time. Everything was covered in a thick coating of dust. There was a very old-looking love seat in the living room. The only other thing in that room was an old TV that must have been from the 60s or 70s. The TV sat in some type of wooden structure that was built around it, and part of the glass was broken out. It was insanely creepy. We went upstairs, and the stairway was pretty decrepit and didn't appear to be all that safe. Upstairs, we found a bathroom and bedrooms in the same condition as the first floor. Honest to God, it looked like someone had moved out of this house in the 60s or 70s, and no one has come back to it since. It made absolutely no sense. Obviously, looking back, someone must have still owned it, but didn't care enough to do anything with it or sell it once they left. If it ended up being the city's property, they would have torn it down or remodeled it to sell it. It was just really odd. Not to mention the creepy factor it had. We explored for a bit and eventually decided to get the heck out of there. We went on playing all day each day as we were on summer break at this point. We often talked about the house and would make up different stories about the house or come up with random theories on how it ended up the way it did. I remember us sitting at my house one afternoon. It had been storming all day, so we were stuck inside. We ended up playing Truth or Dare. After a few rounds back and forth, I selected a dare from Dustin. He ended up daring me to go spend the night in the house by myself. The thought of that was obviously pretty horrifying. We went back and forth on the subject. He called me a wuss because I said I didn't want to do it. I asked him, if it's not a big deal, why don't you do it? He ended up saying that he would do it if I went with him. Neither of us wanted to be the one that backed down, and the next thing I knew, we were planning out a little slumber party at the creepy house. He went to his house and packed up his sleeping bag and a few other items he might need, and I did the same thing. We each told our parents we were spending the night at the other person's house. We had planned on meeting at the house at 9 p.m. The other time we were there, we went out the back door when we left and didn't lock it. The house was a bit closer to where I lived, and I got there a few minutes before Dustin. Once he arrived, we attempted to enter through the back door, but it was locked. It kind of creeped us out, but we decided that it was probably just old and locked on its own. I gave Dustin a boost into the window, and he let me in the back door. We decided to camp out together in one of the bedrooms upstairs. We both brought our baseball and football cards and were trading cards with each other, using the candlelight so we could at least kind of see what we were doing. A little later on in the night, we were laying in our sleeping bags, making jokes with one another and laughing. We were being loud and kind of obnoxious because we didn't have to worry about upsetting our parents. Thinking back, at this point, I was comfortable and having a good time. That good time abruptly ended though. Out of nowhere, we heard a loud knocking noise. The stormy weather had basically ended at this point. There were light, distant roars of thunder here and there, but this noise was different. Dustin and I both froze in fear and stared at each other. Neither of us made a peep. We just sat there silently, trying to listen for any other noises. It went quiet again for a few seconds, and then the slamming started. It sounded like someone was downstairs in the house, slamming a door shut over and over and over again. There weren't any other noises, just the sound of the door slamming. It was completely obvious that this wasn't the wind or anything like that. We couldn't tell which door it was, but we were absolutely terrified. We both stood up, and in a panic, we were asking each other what we should do. We were on the second story of the house, and the last thing we wanted to do was to go downstairs and run into whoever was down there. The slamming of the door continued as we scrambled to figure out a plan. I ran over to the window of the bedroom and opened it. Luckily, underneath the window, there was a section of roof we could climb down to. We left all our belongings and climbed out the window and dropped down to the roof. From there, it was about another 8 feet or so to the ground. We jumped off the roof and ran as fast as we could. We both ran to my house. It was after 11 p.m. at this point. My parents were upset and wanted to know what we were doing. We didn't want to admit to breaking into the abandoned house, so we said we got lost in the forest earlier in the night that was nearby. We both spent the night at my house that night. We never told our parents about what happened, and we never went back to the house. If I had to guess at what happened, I would assume that a homeless man was using the abandoned house as a place to live. He probably showed up there and heard us being loud upstairs, and decided to continue to make noise by slamming the door to scare us out of his home. And if that's what happened, his plan worked. Neither of us got hurt or anything, but I don't believe I've quite felt that terrified any other time in my life. I still think about it sometimes, wishing I really knew for sure what happened that night. And to this day, I still regret losing my collection of trading cards. But at the same time, I was honestly fearing for my life. Okay, so that is a true story that happened to my friend and I when we were, I think 8 years old. I did type that up so it would be in a format that wasn't me, just like stumbling over my words and being like, and then, a little more enjoyable for you guys to hear. For those of you, if there are any of you, that are still listening to this point and listened all the way through, you're amazing, and I love you to death. If any of you guys have any stories that are new that you'd like to send me, that aren't already on someone else's channel or posted online elsewhere and kind of go with my theme of being brand new and unheard, whether they're true stories or creepypastas, feel free to send them to me. I have my email and social media stuff in the description of the video. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for all the support you've been giving me. It's absolutely amazing to me to see my channel grow as fast as it has, and it just makes me want to work harder for you guys. And hopefully as time goes on, I'm able to just continue to dedicate more and more time and turn this into something great. I would like nothing more than that. Thank you guys for listening, and I will have another brand new creepypasta posted probably within the next day. Take care, everyone.